Today I have the honour of speaking with Professor Peter Lynch, Emeritus Professor at the UCD School of Maths and Statistics, who not only is a mathematician, but is also a meteorologist, blogger, book author, and a regular contributor to the Irish Times. And Peter and I will chat about the future of mathematics. Hi, Peter. How are you today?
Hello, Patricia. Hi, everybody. I'm feeling good.
Super, Peter. So first question for you today is, where are you located and how has life been for you over the last few months?
Well, I'm at home in my house in Glenageary. Normally, I'd be up in Belfield in my office, but here I am for reasons we all know. But things have gone very well. Those of us who work with our heads are a lot more fortunate than those who work with their hands. We can just carry on.
Absolutely. So, Peter, you are a professor of maths in UCD. Can you please tell our listeners what you do and why are you so passionate about what you do?
I like sums, as we used to call them in school. I had good teacher up to the Leaving Cert, and then I had wonderful professors in UCD when I was an undergraduate. At the time, I didn't appreciate that, but when I look back, I realized they did a huge amount to foster a love of the subject as well as a knowledge of it. And it's been a passion really all my life.
And Peter, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do? So you're a meteorologist as well as a maths professor.
Yeah, I spent most of my career, 33 years, in what's now Met Éireann, most of the time developing computer models for forecasting. So that's an application of reasonably sophisticated mathematics to a very practical problem.
Okay. And Peter, as you know, in UCD Discovery, we strive to promote interdisciplinary research. And it seems from looking at your own work that maybe interdisciplinarity plays a very strong role. Would that be true?
It does, yes, indeed. I mean, I'm more of an applied mathematician. There are plenty of people who do mathematics purely for its own sake and are not particularly worried about what we might call the real world. Now, that's good because they develop techniques which very often turn out later to be very valuable. But my own interest is mainly in the applied area. And I mean, all of physics and all the physical sciences depend on maths. And as time goes on, more and more, it's applied in biology and sociology and pretty much everywhere else.
Okay, so my next question is, COVID-19 has changed a lot for everyone, as you've mentioned earlier, but what has it changed for your own work? And have you seen any unforeseen opportunities from COVID?
What's changed and what hasn't changed? I guess, I mean, the last meeting I went to abroad was in London in January. Like everyone else, I've had to miss meetings. Well, meetings have been cancelled since then. So there are downsides, of course. And I miss meeting people in the corridor and just chatting or having a coffee, because that can be very stimulating. You find out something completely new that you never were even thinking about before. But there are upsides as well. I mean, the course I teach every year on recreational mathematics, Awesomes, is going ahead this year, but of course in a Zoom context. But it does mean it's open to everyone right throughout Ireland and indeed throughout the globe. And who knows, there's life on Venus now, they say. So I get a registration from there. I mean, it's very widely available, and that's a real benefit.
Okay, so that's an awesome name, Awesomes. And can people register for that online, is it?
Yeah, I mean, if they go to what is it, ALL, Adult and Lifelong Learning in UCD, they'll find it.
And that's open to the public, is that right, Peter?
It's open to anybody, but I mean, obviously to people with some interest in mathematics. There's quite a lot of people around who feel they missed out at school. They didn't really get it, and they feel it's something interesting and important, and they didn't quite get enough chance to appreciate it. So this is the chance. And of course, the way I describe mathematics, it's beautiful, it's useful, and it's fun.
Okay, I'm sure we'll have lots of questions about that statement just there. So my last question in the first 5 minutes is, I very much enjoy reading your columns in the Irish Times. And I suppose I'd like to sum up my 5 questions in 5 minutes by asking you, will mathematics be replaced by computers?
Yeah, I can give you an absolutely crystal clear, unequivocal answer. Yes and no.
Okay.
Of course, because I mean, already computers have had a role. For example, I think of 4 problems that have been proved in the last few decades. Fermat's last theorem and Poincaré's conjecture. No time to describe them, but their major advances were made without any essential role by computers. On the other hand, the 4-color problem and Kepler's conjecture about packing spheres, they both depended strongly on computational support. So what's going to happen in the future is computers are getting more powerful at an incredible rate. We feel almost threatened by the onward march of AI. It's really difficult. Nobody knows where it will go, but I have no doubt it'll have a major impact on mathematics. It's very controversial. I mean, some people would say, come on, you know, maths is creative. It needs imagination. It needs flair, and machines can't do that. But, you know, we've always tended to underestimate the power of these machines. The interesting question is, I mean, can a computer actually formulate an interesting conjecture? And that would have views on both sides. What do I mean by interesting? I mean fertile, you know, something that leads to major new techniques being developed and clever proofs and opens up new horizons. It's not impossible a computer will be able to do this. We don't know.
Okay, and that's, I think that's a great opportunity to wrap up the 5 minutes and then open it up to the audience. So so thank you, Peter. We've already got a lot of questions coming in. First one for you: why is maths still seen as a male subject? For example, applied maths isn't even an option in some all-girls secondary schools, even in 2020.
Yeah, I don't think it's seen as a male subject. I mean, if you open the, let's say, the notices of the American Mathematical Society, which is a monthly magazine, you'll find about half the articles are written by women, half the photographs are women. I mean, roughly speaking, things are changing very much. Now, the specific issue of why applied maths might not be available in girls' school, I mean, this is a historical hangover. You know, we need to address that and try to teach, try to encourage more women to take up applied maths in all its guises in university and maybe go back and teach it. It's difficult. In fact, it's difficult to find applied mathematics teachers anywhere.
Okay, so a teacher shortage more than anything. Okay, so more questions for you, Peter. So this is a long one, so bear with me. So you once wrote that mathematics can be enormously interesting and inspiring, but its beauty and utility are often hidden. So why then does maths have a reputation for being difficult?
Oh, that's simple. It is.
Okay.
It's not an easy subject. It requires work. I tend to, you know, often compare Beethoven and Gauss. They were more or less contemporaries, and Beethoven is known to everybody. And his work, his magnificent creations are accessible immediately. They get into the brain on a hyper channel without much effort. Whereas Gauss's mathematics, which is profound and beautiful, takes work. You must work at it to appreciate the beauty of it.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. So how do you feel about maths puzzles and the way Des McHale, or in brackets, Martin Gardner or John Conway present the subject?
Puzzles are great. I mean, people like puzzles. You know, they like quizzes and they like challenges and so on. As long as they're within they have a reasonable chance of solving them. If you give people puzzles that are impossible to solve, you're not being very fair. So, I mean, I'm not a kind of an enthusiast of puzzles, but I like the occasional one.
Okay, so there's lots more questions here. So here's a question, I'm going back to school. So my 7-year-old finds learning times tables difficult, but are learning these tables important to be good, in inverted commas, at maths?
No, they're not important to be good at maths. In fact, I mean, mathematicians are notorious for their kind of innumeracy, their inability to do simple calculations. I mean, my tax returns are looming up and I have to do them within a month or so. And I just dread the idea of very simple accounts. You know, that's nothing to do with real mathematics. It's just painful arithmetic. But I mean, it's useful to know at least some of the tables, the lower tables. You know, I mean, mental arithmetic is a great facility.
Okay, so that's interesting. I'll have to tell my kids that in future, that they don't have to concentrate too much on their tables. So here's
Hold on, you didn't hear that. Rephrasing what I said it's a good idea to learn at least the basic tables. I mean, the thing is, attitudes are funny. A lot of people feel that learning things off by heart is a bad idea. I think it's absolutely essential to learn things off. We've got to know.
I fully agree. I fully agree. So loads of questions for you. So here's another one. What's the hardest maths question in the world?
Ah, well, there are many, but I guess the most outstanding unsolved problem, probably most mathematicians would agree, it's the Riemann hypothesis.
Okay.
It's a bit technical how to explain, but all the zeros are on one line, except for the ones that aren't. All the non-trivial zeros, they say, are on a line. And that seems not a very dramatic thing, but literally thousands of other theorems depend upon the Riemann hypothesis. In other words, if that's not true, they are not true. So it's profoundly important for mathematics. And that has been outstanding for 150 years or so. And there's no proof in sight. And maybe there is no proof. That's another problem with mathematics. It's fundamentally incomplete. There are things, listen carefully, there are things that are true but cannot be proved.
Okay.
Proved, that was demonstrated by Kurt Gödel in 1931. And it has really shook the community.
Interesting. That's an interesting concept even to take into other areas of science. I'll remember that forever. Thank you. More questions coming in, and we'll try and get through as many as possible. So could you please talk about the publication culture in math? Are you a supporter of technical disciplinary journals or more open access generalist journals, which often put the math in the appendix?
Oh, I think of one particular experience I had publishing a paper is actually the American Meteorological Society journal. And they just insisted I take all the mathematics out. I mean, I was rather disgusted. So I negotiated with them to at least put the macho version of the paper, so to speak, online. So that was some way out. But no, I mean, I don't like this attitude that formulae put people off. You know, mathematics is beautiful. And each formulae should be your friend. They're full of beauty and full of significance. And just because, you know, some unfortunate readers are intimidated, that's no reason to dumb down the system.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And actually, you're getting some nice comments in as well as questions. So here's one for you, Peter. Peter Lynch is a hero. The world needs more Peter Lynches.
Oh God, no comment. I don't feel heroic.
Well, there you go. It's written here, so I'm reading it out. So two more quick questions. So here's one, again, going back to schools. What is your opinion on how math is taught in schools?
I'm reluctant to actually answer because I'm not familiar with what's going on in schools these days. I go back to my own childhood, and I was fortunate, as I mentioned, to have a good maths teacher for the Leaving Cert level, and that was great. But in general, I mean, the signals I'm getting from many people are that the system needs to be improved. It's also important, I think, that people teaching the subject have a very broad understanding of its significance and its importance.
And going back, yeah.
People, but you know, that's really basic. I think that they know, well, basically that they love the subject.
Yeah. I was actually going to say that because we were talking about it earlier, the passion in the subject. So about that passion, I suppose, what makes you excited for the future of maths?
I think, I mean, if I mentioned 4 problems that have been solved in the last few decades, I won't repeat them, but I mean, there are many outstanding problems, not only Riemann's hypothesis, there are all sorts of simple questions like is there an infinite number of prime pairs and so on. There are many things you can formulate and we just don't have a clue how to actually get to the answer. So the system, the subject is wide open for geniuses to come along and answer these questions. And the applications then are broadening all the time. I mean, mathematics has always, for many hundreds of years, been essential in what sometimes are called the hard sciences, but it's now finding much broader application, for example, in biology and genetics.
Yeah.
So on, it's an essential component.
Yeah,
I
will. Sorry, Peter?
There are lots of new horizons opening up.
And I think we'll leave that as the last thought there. I couldn't agree more. There are lots of new horizons open up. So unfortunately, we are out of time. And sincere apologies to all those whose questions I didn't actually get to. So I'd like to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to Peter for an absolutely fascinating discussion today. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you very much, and to everybody who looked in, thanks a lot.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for joining in. So we run the Zoom for Thought series each Tuesday. So don't forget to sign up at zoomforthought.ie, where you can also check out our list of upcoming speakers. So thank you so much again, Peter, and thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day and see you all next week on our Zoom for Thought.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.